Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my brand new channel, Brandon Reacts. Welcome. Today, we are reacting to the top 25 lost episode Creepypastas, the top 40 dangerous computer viruses, and the top 22 lost episode, not non-gaming Creepypastas. Welcome everybody to the stream. We are streaming live, everybody. So I know it says a part 1 in it. I am going to be doing a part 2 to this because I've been having some slight problems. I didn't put in the top 22 on Gaming Creepypastas because of one thing. I didn't have enough space to put it, so I decided to put it like in a part 2 video. So I'm sorry everybody if I've got a part 2 video. So I'm just checking out the stream. I'm going to put up the volume quickly and we did. So, to do it like in a part 2 video. I'm sorry everybody if there we go, that should be it. Alright, so, we're going to get started right now because we're ready. But I do want to say thank you very much guys for this. This is my brand new channel. I'm going to be doing reactions. No gaming, nothing. Just reactions of like other like popular gamers, like we reacting to these like tops videos, but there's a lot of things today we're gonna be doing. There's gonna be a lot. But by the way, we are doing. This won't be like a part 1 video. This is what I just call it. So I'm gonna quickly call it back. So I didn't fit the top 22 lost episode. No, can't speak today. The top 22 lost gaming creepypastas. I didn't fit it in because some reasons, but I am doing it today, so don't you worry. We'll be back shortly. I'm going to be taking some short breaks after each one, so and we're gonna get started, guys. Are you excited? Well, I'm excited to react to these videos because these actually are really good at making these good videos. Thank you for Tat Top's videos for making all these videos. I'll be reacting to 3 of them. So, without further ado, everybody, are you ready? Get your big pants on because I'm about to get my pants shit. But anyway, without further ado, oh my goodness. So thank you for subscribing. So please subscribe to this channel, give it a like, turn on notifications, and yeah. Alright, we're gonna get started. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh god. Oh god, I'm gonna be scared.
This video contains disturbing content, violent content, jump scares, and sudden loud noises. Viewer discretion advised.
A lost episode is a style of animation in an episode which is either witnessed by the production crew of the show or an individual who somehow came across it through whatever means.
These episodes were lost due to being disturbing, creepy, or flat out inappropriate for younger audiences. Some of the content was apparently shown on TV, but was pulled off the air because of complaints or other reasons.
So let's begin the top 25 lost episode Creepypastas.
Alright. 25, let's go! Let's see what we're doing.
Doug's Real Life.
Doug's Real Life? What the hell is
Doug
that?
was an animated sitcom that focused mainly on the early adolescent life of its title character, Douglas or Doug Funny, who experiences common predicaments while attending school in his new hometown of Bluffington. Doug narrates each story from his journal, and the show incorporates many imagination sequences. However, in the fall of 2005, after the show Doug had finished airing, it came back for just 1 week. The 4 episodes were okay, but the 5th was completely different. It started with the intro animations of the line drawings. The characters never appeared. The lines continued as normal, reacting as if the usual characters were there. Once the intro ended, it switched to show Doug in a dark room, writing in his journal. He wasn't narrating his writing like he usually would do in the show. He just silently wrote for about a minute. The episode itself opened with Doug eating breakfast. He was giving a voiceover about how there was a big test that he had neglected to study for. His family was having a normal conversation, and then the screen started to flash. The flashes seemed to be showing some sort of image or message, but it was impossible to decipher. Doug left his house and began walking to school. Mrs. Wingo announced that Doug had flunked the test, and the entire class started laughing at him. When Doug got to school, the screen flashed again. It began to resemble a negative film. Doug was walking through the school hallway, which was full of kids who had never been seen on the show before. But no one paid any attention to him as Doug walked to his desk. The scene then changed to the end of school and Doug was walking home. Pork chop turned into a hunk of rotting meat, and Doug's house became decrepit. He sat down at an empty table. The phone rang, and Doug's mom answered it. He instantly thought it was his teacher telling them all about how he flunked the test. Doug had a fantasy about his parents yelling at him for failing the test. They grew to giant sizes, and their faces became twisted and dark red. Doug was crying and apologizing. He went up to his bedroom, which was completely empty except for a book and a pencil. Doug picked up the book and started writing, and he narrated this time, but it was incredibly short. All he said was, "I can't tell which one is real."
Alright, there we go. On my bit of a boost put that down a little bit. You can see my green screen behind
Axis Powers, Hetalia, episode 23.5.
Try and get to walk.
Hetalia is a short-based anime with a lovable cast of the world's nations portrayed as humans, stereotypically based on their origins. One episode was featured on a bootleg DVD, which is not shown to be part of the original series. The show starts off with the Axis Power nations, Germany, Japan, and Italy, sitting on a tropical island, obviously stranded. Italy, of course, was his usual nonchalant self, but Germany and Japan seemed a little more grim, obviously worried. After some banter between the two nations in unsubbed Japanese, it appears that the two had come to a horrifying agreement. The scene changes to that of night. It shows the three nations sleeping around the fire. In unison, Germany and Japan stand and carefully pick up the sleeping Italy, cautious of not waking him. They then take him to the water's edge and begin to drown him. Behind the muffled screams and whimpers, all that is heard is Japan repeating, "Gomenasai, Italia," or "Sorry, Italy," while Germany is found looking away from the act, obviously choking back tears. After the deed is done, they carry the seemingly lifeless corpse of Italy back to the camp. Japan draws his sword and begins to cut open Italy and harvest his organs. While doing this, Germany puts the organs on sticks and roasts them on the fire. After some time passes, Germany and Japan take the cooked organs off the fire, and after a quick acknowledgement of their friend's sacrifice, they begin to eat the bloody morsels. Shortly after they begin their meal, Italy suddenly wakes up and begins to go into a panic at the scene presented before him. Germany quickly takes control of the situation and explains to Italy that he was the weakest, and with his sacrifice, he was saving the lives of his friends. Germany then embraces Italy and comforts him as Japan finishes the procedure. More time passes. Japan and Germany are sitting around the lifeless body of Italy, and the remains of his organs placed beside him. In the final shot, the camera zooms in on Italy's face. His lifeless eyes are staring at the sky, smiling, as the screen fades to black. Tom and Jerry, lost episode. It opens up with Tom and the owner in a typical house. But Tom's owner seemed even angrier than other Tom and Jerry episodes. The first scene shown in the episode shows the owner stomping on Tom's tail in a very realistic and painful way, because Tom is sleeping by the basement door. The owner then starts yelling at Tom to never go down there. Tom, clearly terrified, runs away to another room. Jerry then comes out of a mouse hole and follows Tom into the next room. The next few minutes then show the regular Tom and Jerry routine, where Jerry tricks Tom into chasing him into the basement door a few times. But each time the owner catches Tom, inflicts realistically painful injuries, which stays with Tom even after the scene ends. After this, Tom starts to cry and mumbles to Jerry not to bother him anymore. You can tell what he's doing by his body language. Jerry just laughs at him and pushes him back to the basement door. The owner catches him again, but this time goes ballistic. Jerry seemed like he was finally taking pity on Tom. So Jerry picks up a knife and starts stabbing the owner in the leg, quite graphically. Soon after, Tom opens the basement door, and they carry the body down the stairs. Multiple other bodies were then seen down there, decaying and showing signs of their violent deaths. Tom and Jerry shook hands, but Jerry suddenly gets an evil look in his face, and Tom says in a ghastly, deep voice, "Don't you believe it?"
What the hell?
Jerry stabs Tom, killing him instantly, and throws his corpse along with the other bodies. The last shot of the episode then shows Jerry putting up a for sale sign on the yard of the house, laughing, clearly planning to do it all over again.
No, that's much better, is it? Alright. Let me put that with you.
Max and Ruby 0004. Max and Ruby is an animated series aimed at preschoolers. Each episode consists of 3 self-contained vignettes. Within each, Ruby is typically engaged in some sort of project or activity, while Max has a particular interest of his own, which either runs counter to Ruby or distracts her. One version was strangely different. In this video, a DVD box was found in someone's house. It was different than the normal Max and Ruby box art. This one had looked like it was crudely drawn in a black marker. On the back of the box it listed 4 episodes, but they were not named correctly. The DVD itself was not scratched and looked in pristine condition. The episode selection screen was strangely isolated, with just a white screen with black text. The titles of the episodes were called Max and Ruby 1, with the numbers being changed as it went down the list. From what the sources say, the only memorable moment of the DVD was a disturbing static frame of Max and Ruby standing next to each other.
Oh my goodness, cat! I can't just get off me!
They were drawn with no mouths, no noses, and their eyes were replaced with black, hollow holes. The colors were red, and there was a faint static sound in the background. When viewing the DVD more closely, the episode 4 had now been replaced with Rest in Peace, Mommy and Daddy.
Oh my god!
While the episode itself goes static at this point, it's believed that in the episode, Max and Ruby's parents murder one another. A gravestone is faintly seen with the words Rest in Peace, Mommy and Daddy written on it. Loud voices are heard, and the scene shows what looks like Max and Ruby hanging himself from the ceiling, and Ruby walking in on him. In the final scene, it shows Ruby sitting near 2 gravestones, one with Rest in Peace, Mommy and Daddy, and another one saying Rest in Peace, Brother. She then looks at the camera, and the screen goes to a static image of Ruby, this time with the text saying, "Death is our only release."
Uh-oh, the screen's going crazy. What's delay mean? Oh, it delays sometimes. Oh god. That's
Happy, happy, Happy Abby aired on Nick Jr. early in the year of 1999. The star of the show was an apple named Happy Abby, who helped children when they got injured. The first 2 episodes were normal and went well. In Happy's Vacation, he goes on a vacation to the beach, heals injured kids, and even talks down on a bully into not hurting a child. The second episode, Hurt Happy, was about Happy's stick getting broken, and the children teamed up to help Happy Abby by giving him bandages and fruit. But as the episodes progressed, the show became weirder and weirder.
Why?
A scene in episode 4, Nate needs help. Happy aids Nate, who has a bruise on his knee. He looked at the camera, giving off an evil smile, and says, "What does Nate need for his boo-boo?" He continues to stare for 30 seconds, and then broke the silence by saying, "That's right, a bandage." Happy Abby was made out of clay with arms, baby blue eyes, and large dark green lips being held up by a bent, rusty stick. As the show continued broadcasting on Nick Jr. every fortnight, the show became much more sinister. The rusty bent stick that was used became cleaner, and he began to develop a sinister stare with an evil grin. By episode 7, it wasn't even made out of clay anymore. As soon as the 8th episode aired, the show was suddenly taken off the air.
Thank goodness.
Along with all the recent episodes.
Yeah,
every trace of Happy Abby.
So, just let me tell you guys something. This text will be back. This text will be up, but I'm like taking a short break, so make sure you know that already. This gun will be off, and like it was like should be like that. Should be like this, guys. And you should do that. Alright, take that off.
Was removed, and not much is known about its existence. The TV show was planned to have 3 seasons, but they were never aired, possibly due to the sheer brutality and creepiness of the show altogether.
Oh god, there's more next. More next.
Angry Sylvester.
What the hell
There was
is
an
this?
episode back in 1998 which starred Sylvester from the Looney Tunes. This episode was reported as being strangely different and disturbing when compared to other previously aired episodes. This particular episode did not have the same intro as the Looney Tune cartoons usually would. It just skipped the title screen and displayed a living room of a house which was drawn entirely in 2 colors, red and black, with no music.
Oh no, it's red and black? That's bad.
The only sound that could be heard during this part was a woman speaking in Hungarian saying,
"What the fuck?"
Directed by. The creepy thing about it is that Cartoon Network had not been broadcasted in Hungarian yet. There was no fade, but rather a jump cut straight to the next scene.
Hello, dude.
It showed a bruised, eyeless Sylvester standing in front of him, something that appeared to resemble a military base. The scene was accompanied with dead silence. He didn't say anything. He just looked angry. In the next scene, he entered the military base, but no one was there. Sylvester wanted revenge on the people for what they did to him. His claws grew to a ridiculous size, covered in blood. He started to sabotage the military base by destroying all the lights hanging from the ceiling. The scene started flashing rapidly as he started tearing down the lights, and sparks of electricity could be heard, which sounded very loud.
We can't.
In the next
That's
scene,
fantastic.
Sylvester was seen all alone
The floor
in
is
an
red!
empty
The
room.
floor is red!
The room's
Oh,
floor
God.
was
Oh god.
blood red, and the walls looked as if it were on fire. The room contained 2 tables. A large one with a toy and screwdriver on it.
Oh, Jesus.
And a small one with a TV. The beams coming out of the window were misaligned, so they resembled an inverted crucifix. But outside the window was pitch black. Sylvester proceeded to repair the toy Dalek when the TV suddenly turned on by itself.
Did it actually?
The TV displayed an extremely creepy cartoon with music that sounded like somebody randomly banging an electric guitar. A few seconds later, it switched to a long, empty room with darkness on one end and Porky Pig on the other.
Why?
He started firing his gun at the other end of the room, saying things to the monster. Then the scene turned to static. A few seconds later, a very loud bang was heard, and the screen faded to red. It then faded back to Sylvester in his room, standing next to the wreckage of his TV, looking even more angry, with more bruises, and his eyes were now tinged blood red.
We're back, everybody. Alright, boom, boom, and go.
That creepy image of the horrifying, angry Sylvester stayed on the screen for about 10 seconds, then switched to black. After that, the normal Cartoon Network screen came back, with the normal coming up next screen.
That's creepy, but whatever. We still have a lot of things to do,
The
guys.
Three Stooges, Dead
What the fuck is this?
Dumbheads. In 1947, an episode, Half-Wit's Holiday, was about to come to theaters. According to the police, only 3 or 4 individuals had arrived in the theater to watch a simple screening of...
1 second, everybody. I'm just checking out the volume and some...
3 or 4 individuals had arrived in the theater to watch a simple screening of...
1 second. Alright, that's not the audio, guys. Sorry about that.
what they thought would be Half-Wit's Holiday. It was later found out to be much more than that. The episode was wildly different than the standard Three Stooges episode.
Sorry, guys.
While the general foolishness and silly humor was present, it wasn't until blood was shown that the episode started feeling more disturbing. After a small incident where Moe trips over Larry's ladder, the two begin the usual fighting. But instead of the usual cartoonish sound effects and silly hand movements, Moe uses a screwdriver and rams it into Larry's eye.
Oh my god!
Larry is assumed dead at this point, since he isn't shown to be moving. The audio and video then cut out into Larry's eye, but it is shown Larry is assumed Curly left tools all over the floor. He falls on one of them and accidentally grabs a saw on the way down,
oh god,
injuring himself. The video blacks out again, and this time there is a dispute between Moe and Curly. The two get into a fight, which eventually leads to Curly killing Moe on stage with a hammer. Curly is critically injured by Moe's last attempt for revenge, but quickly passes out on camera.
So,
The police of the theater eventually...
I'm going to see something. So if I go over this screen, this is actually just one of the screens I have for like lighting purposes, but I'm going to put the text one, number 2, right? But I just need to put, when I'm actually taking a short break, this screen will be appeared for a short bit of time, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, let's switch back over to me. No, and we can do this one now.
Truly told its audience to leave and removed the film from the screening room. Upon further investigation, it was believed the original producer of the video was kidnapped.
Oh my god!
And an alternate, snuff version of the film was created instead, featuring actors who resembled the main stars.
Oh my god! Alright then, 18. What were the things to do?
Teletubbies.
Oh my god!
Seesaw. An uncut, possibly snuff version of the Teletubbies show was reported on VHS back in 1995.
What the fuck is going on? It's all blue!
The tape was labeled Seesaw and featured the Teletubbies running down a hill to a static image of a seesaw.
That's kinda good.
The image was shown for several minutes before a woman's voice could be heard telling the audience she was coming to get them. A bear's face flashed on the screen, and it opened its mouth, saying that it too was coming to get them. The seesaw was seen again, but this time with gore around it. The only known Seesaw episode the Teletubbies were featured in was episode 11 of season 1. It was apparently the first ever episode to feature the bear. This caused several parents to complain about the sketch being too scary for their children.
Of course! They're all scary! Oh my god! Creepy.
Arthur. Death of Grandma.
Okay.
Arthur is an animated educational television series for children.
Okay, no. Okay. Let's go for a break. Be right back, guys! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, let's switch back over there to me.
With its first episode back in 1996, Arthur often deals with important issues that families face, such as asthma, dyslexia, cancer, and Asperger's syndrome. In this lost episode, unlike normal episodes, it does not show the opening title of the episode. It shows Arthur and his father sitting in a waiting room of Elwood City Hospital. Arthur's mother then walks in on them and informs them that Grandma has passed away, shocking both Scene shows Arthur at a funeral with a white casket
All
of his
right, we're
grandma.
back. So guys, but
Except, when the
Let's go
casket
back
was open,
shortcut, 'cause,
it wasn't his grandma,
my
but
mum
his
comes in,
actual
so
mother.
decided
Arthur
to
began
be-
screaming aloud, and sudden flashes of himself being in the casket formed in the scene. The next scene showed a basic title called Recovery, and was written on a plain white background.
It's going crazy, but
Arthur appeared in a room, and when his pet pal came in and started barking, Arthur kicked him and slammed the door shut. The next scene showed Arthur sneaking off to visit his grandma's grave. He dug through the earth and found the coffin, and then opened. He was inside of it. The screen went black, and there was a low sound that rose high above the chatter, which was the Tibbles laughing.
there we go.
The final scene showed Arthur sitting at the sugar bowl with a
Turned off by
corpse
accident.
of Buster at the floor. There were a few white flashes, and it showed him in prison with Arthur screaming that he murdered them all. Kate, DW, his dog.
What?
Not his parents. For it seemed that Thura
This is so
had made
crazy!
him.
God. What?
Not his parents.
I did just
It
test
seemed
now.
that Thura.
The Simpsons.
Oh
Dead
my
Bart.
god, really?
The episode
Oh.
started off like any other episode,
No,
but it had very
these are
poor
my
quality
favorite.
animation.
I
The
just
first
couldn't
act was
say.
fairly normal, but the way the characters acted, the episode started off
Did
like
seem
any
a
other
little
off. Homer certainly seemed a lot angrier. Marge seemed very depressed. Lisa seemed oddly anxious. And Bart
crazy.
seemed to
Don't
have
know
a
why, it's
genuine
going crazy.
anger and hatred for his parents. The Simpson family then went on a plane near the end of the first act.
Okay,
The plane was taking off, and as you guessed it, Bart was fooling around.
we can't see it, yo.
For a
There we go,
split
that's
second, Bart breaks a window on the plane and gets sucked out, with the camera zooming in Bart's corpse.
Ah!
When Act 2 started, Homer, Marge, and Lisa were sitting around their table, crying.
Okay.
The crying went on for several minutes. A message saying
1 year later.
1 year later comes across the screen, and it shows Homer, Marge, and Lisa, skeletally thin, and still sitting at the same table. For some reason,
Okay.
Maggie was not present. In the next scene, they visit Bart's grave. Springfield was completely deserted, and as they walked to the cemetery, the houses became more and more decrepit. The view zoomed out as the episode came to a close. The tombstones in the background had the name of every Simpsons guest star on them. They
Okay.
even had the correct dates of death when some of the crew members would die.
Go crazy. Well, 15.
Regular show.
Oh my
fix this.
god, I watched that show as well.
This last episode is more of an uncut version of the original, but nonetheless, it's much more gory and intense. Regular show. The creator of the show, J.G. Quintal, invited his friends over to watch the screening of the new episode, I Can Fix This. Everything played
I'm
out
not gonna
normal
watch this.
until it got up to the
See you
freezer
guys,
scene where the
shortly.
protagonist
I'm gonna
Mordecai
watch
and
it.
Rigby
I'm not gonna
get
watch
locked
it.
inside the
Sit
park
down.
freezer. Mordecai blamed Rigby for the situation and started attacking him. The duo ended up in a scuffle, and in one scene it showed Mordecai strangling Rigby in a realistic fashion. What's more, for a cartoon, blood was shown in the scene, and in another, Mordecai was gaining satisfaction in torturing Rigby. The episode ends when Mordecai kills Rigby and simply smiles to himself. Gaining satisfaction in torturing Rigby.
Go back. Sorry guys.
Ah, Real Monsters. Final Scare. Ah, Real Monsters is an American animated television series.
You know what? I'm actually going to skip this one because of reasons. And also I'm going to skip the Suicide Mouse one because I don't really want to watch this one. Because it makes me really sick. Sorry guys, but you can watch it yourself. At the end of this live stream I might actually put it down.
Stick Stickly.
Oh yeah,
Stick
this guy!
Stickly is a
So I
fictional
went to-
character
So,
created
let
by
me show you
Nickelodeon.
guys. So I found him when I was doing the Nickelodeon fuck's sake. Oh my god. Don't even want to know that. But anyway, I found him when I was looking through the Nickelodeon 3D movie maker. I found him. So there we go.
He's a popsicle stick with googly eyes, a jelly bean nose, and a small mouth.
Okay.
He was the host of Nick in the Afternoon, a programming block on the network that aired summers from 1995 to 1998 on weekday afternoons.
Okay.
There were 6 videos on a Stickly website called First Ever Stickly Appearance.
Okay.
The first began with Stickly in front of a chalkboard. He had no nose, and his mouth was straight. He proceeded to make a few jokes, and the episode ended. The second was called Stick Gets Injured. His face was the same as before, and he had a
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, let's continue.
few splinters sticking out his side. The third was called Hang Stick. Stickly was hanging in the air by a piece of string tied around his waist.
Okay.
A little boy was playing a game of hangman, and every time he got a letter wrong, the string would move higher. The game was over when the string reached Stickly's neck.
Okay.
The fourth video was called Stick Quits. He was complaining that no one cared about him,
Okay.
and that he was treated like a toothpick. Then a little child appeared and told him that everyone loved him, so he decided to stay.
You know what, guys? I'm going to turn off the
The
face cam
fifth
for right
video
now.
was marked Stick
I'm not
Gets
going to turn on the
Mad.
face cam for the rest of this
This
time,
episode
guys.
had no sound, but it showed that Stickly was shouting at a little girl who was hiding from him, and eventually she left. The sixth episode was called The Winner Revealed. Stickly had a dark red stain on the top of his head,
Yeah.
and one of his eyes was an X. Stickly announced that the viewers voted for Candle Cove.
So sorry, everybody, if you like face cam, but No place for this right now. Oh, I'm gonna set back up my computer back onto my
Chucky's Mom. Rugrats is an animated TV series for Nickelodeon. The show focuses on a group of toddlers, most prominently Tommy, Chucky, Phil, Lil, and Angelica, and their day-to-day lives, usually involving common life experiences that become adventures in the babies' imaginations. Adults in the series are almost always unaware of what the children get up to. However, this only provides more room for the babies to explore and discover their surroundings. Now, during the height of popularity, there was an adult version put to the test. Due to the disturbing nature of the pilot episode, it was never aired, but it was shown around the studio. Until one morning, the adult pilot episode was mistaken for a normal episode. This episode featured Chucky standing next to his dying mother while she sang My Only Sunshine. The scene cuts to a live-action chicken getting his head cut off, said to symphonize death by the audience. Chucky cries and screams before having a seizure. The scene then dissolves to Chucky's dad crying in a hospital waiting room. And then back to Chucky waking up, to the paramedics trying to revive him. We later find out that whatever condition that Chucky's mom had, she had inherently passed it on to him as well. The final scene shows Chucky's dad crying over the body of his now dead son.
Oh my god. This is the most creepiest stuff I've ever seen, guys.
1999.
What?
The year 1999 remains to be the bloodied, charred remnants of the destroyed childhoods for the kids who lived in Caledon, Ontario. The channel, Caledon Local 21, consisted of TV shows such as Mr. Bear Cellar and Booby. It mainly starred expecting kids into a unfavorable
I'm gonna skip that one for right now because that one doesn't looks like a real children one.
Goosebumps. Lost episode.
Of course, Goosebumps.
One removed episode from the highly popular series Goosebumps was called Hide and Seek, which featured 3 girls, Rachel, Amy, and Emily, at a sleepover, who all sat in a circle.
Oh, wait a minute. Is there actually a hide and seek episode? Hide and seek. No way there's a hide and seek episode. Hide and seek episode. Okay, I need to find what. Goosebumps. No way there's a Goosebumps episode. So actually a real one. Goosebumps. Actually, Goosebumps episode. Is there actually one? Shows us the video. Well, I think it is. But let's go and continue.
Bumps. Lost episode.
Let's continue.
One removed episode from the highly popular series Goosebumps was called Hide and Seek, which featured 3 girls, Rachel, Amy, and Emily, at a sleepover, who all sat in a circle. Amy had apparently been telling scary horror stories, but they later decided to do something fun like hide and seek. While Emily hid in the cupboard, Amy counted to 6. After several minutes, Emily wondered whether Amy had finished looking for her, so naturally she ventured out of her hiding spot and noticed another suspicious person in the room with her.
Oh my god.
This person looked different. Their face was all blurry and his voice was rather deep. He said to Emily,
"Oh my god, that's creepy."
When Emily crawled back inside the cupboard, crying, the figure talked directly to the camera, repeating the same thing over and over again, till the lines got instilled into the audience's mind. It's unknown what remained of this very same episode, since there has been no known reports of Goosebumps episode titled Hide and Seek.
You just hear that beeping? That's weird. Sorry.
The Amazing World of Gumball.
Oh my god, that's what I didn't want to hear. No!
The Amazing World of Gumball is an animated television series produced by Cartoon Network. The series revolves around the life of Gumball Watterson, a 12-year-old cat who attends middle school in the fictional city of Elmore. Accompanied by his adoptive goldfish brother and best friend Darwin, he frequently finds himself involved in various shenanigans around the city. One summer in 2012, during a commercial break, a special episode was about to start. The title of the episode came up and was listed as The Grieving. Not too much is known about this depressing version of the show, other than Anais and Darwin both going missing. Both Nicole and Richard are called into Principal Brown's office, where he informs them in nauseating detail of how their bodies were found. Anais mutilated with her head missing and a note which was never shown to the audience. But it did explain where Darwin's corpse was. They had found him in Miss Simeon's classroom, hanging by a noose, with a blood-covered knife behind him and blood covering his clothing. The episode ended with a shot of Gumball's dead body hanging there in the corner, fading to black.
Oh, that's kind of crap. We can't see anything. Oh, god damn it.
Little Bear and the Big Red Book.
What the fuck?
This last episode was rather an animation made by the author's brother, but nonetheless, it contained something rather unfortunate. The whole episode revolved around this big red book, which Father Bear was reading. Little Bear noticed how sad and angry he looked when his father read it, and when he left the room, Little Bear would start reading from it. A voice that was not spoken by Little Bear or anyone from the show started reading the disturbing poems. For every poem that was read, Little Bear got more and more depressed, and everything in the show slowly started to fade to grayscale, except for the book, which was still red. Suddenly, everything stops and cuts to Mother Bear, tucking Little Bear back into bed. But Little Bear looked extremely shocked and stared straight at the audience with a blank expression. His eyes were extremely bloodshot and his fur was all mangled. As the Mother Bear turned off the lights and left the room, Little Bear slowly started to sing as the room got more dark. A pair of red eyes appeared above Little Bear. Then, a terrifying little laugh of a creature jumped onto Little Bear. The entire screen cut to white, then slowly faded to a montage of different scenes of running water. Then, it faded to a picture of the author when he was a child, standing next to a grave with his mother's name on it, which was strange because his mother was still alive.
That's so bad I can't show these pictures.
Crybaby Lane. Not many of you would know of the late 90s Nickelodeon film Crybaby Lane, because it was never aired outside of the US, nor released on VHS until 2011, due to the film's inappropriate and scary content. Apparently, the original Crybaby Lane was much different than what was planned. Witness reports indicated that in 1999, a staff member who worked in the creative production team explained that the film's director was creepy and loved the idea of making the movie more scary than it normally should be. The plot of the film was about two brothers who unleash a demon by accident. They then try and repair the damages and get everything back to normal. It's clear that the director wanted to make much more terrifying scenes, but no one fought against his ideas. It wasn't until the third week that he began suggesting these things, one of which was a scene where one of the brothers was to get hit with a truck halfway through the film. Many of the production team absolutely refused this idea. But a week later, during a brainstorming session, The witness claimed that the director had locked the meeting room door and had forced them to watch a black and white projection screen showing a decapitated boy. As the camera zoomed in on the face, the director shut off the screen and let them all leave. The strange thing about the director's suggested ideas was that they were used in later Nickelodeon shows. One suggested that the two brothers captured a squirrel, putting it into a jar, and slowly drowning it before filling the jar with sand and dropping it into the bottom of a pond, which led to the existence of Sandy from SpongeBob SquarePants.
Rap Rat. Rap Rat was a 1992 board game where players would attempt to...
Alright guys, so I will be right back. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue.
Move around the board to collect puzzle pieces while trying not to run out of time. The gameplay involves rolling a color-coded die and moving pieces around a circular track of color-coded spaces. The difference with this board game is it had a VHS tape to play along with. Rap Rat the character would appear on the television and say funny quotes to the players. Player interaction is one of the most important parts of any good board game. And this game certainly had lots of that, constantly reminding each child to hurry up and have their go, explaining to each child that Rap Rat is telling them to jump up and down on the spot until he says stop. There were very few copies made for the game, but reports indicated that children would end up getting afraid or start crying. The longer they played, according to children, he was described as a monster rat with bigger ears and fish eyes. It apparently spoke much louder with a growl, and what was shown instead of a static screen was disturbing content such as syringes, a hornet stinging someone's eyes, and a man about to jump from a balcony. When adults viewed the VHS tape, they reported the content as normal. But the more they watched it, the more disturbing the content became. Rap Rat would no longer look like a puppet, but would now have fur and its eyes being huge and staring. The static images were more gruesome, this time showing images of decapitation and abandonment.
What is that?
There were several thousand complaints lodged towards the companies responsible. Upon further investigation, it was believed that a couple of cowboys, was responsible for the board game Rap Rat that had apparently become defunct in 1994, 2 years after the release. Rumors speculated that they commissioned a manufacturing company in Haiti to create the character portrayed in the game. One of the workers suffered a tragic accident in the making of the character. It was said the character was demonic, with the curse getting stronger the more its name, a parrot, was mentioned. The company renamed the character to Rap Rat instead.
I'm gonna get some freaking Nightmares.
Ed, Edd and Eddy, Lost Episode. As you may know, the popular show Ed, Edd and Eddy has been running for a long time.
Never watched it before, but...
between October 7th, 2003 and October 21st, 2003, episode 34 was accidentally released 1 week before it was scheduled to. Apparently, the quality of the episode was mediocre when held to the regular standards. Animation was choppy, sound was restricted and very muffled. Reports of a line running up and down, similar to a VHS tape, were received. It began with Eddy and Ed walking down the street without Double D. Eddy looked very angry and with red around his irises, and Ed had tears in his eyes, as if something sad had just happened. After that, it changes to a claymation sequence of Double D sleeping in Eddy's bed. This scene was seen from a bird's eye view. The scene changes again, this time to Jimmy and Sarah at the dentist. Once that had ended, it cut to commercials.
Oh.
When the show came back, it showed a hairy Rolf fisting a cow on a loop, and the scene changes once more. This time to Naz sitting on her couch reading a magazine. The quality at this part became perfect, unlike the rest of the episode. Johnny then comes up from Naz's couch and crawls out on all fours in a way you would usually see in a cartoon. The odd thing about him was that his eyes appeared to be missing. And all of a sudden, Johnny started swallowing Naz's head,
oh my
still
God.
in a cartoon fashion. And it changed to the final scene. Double D laying on Eddy's floor for the remainder of the episode.
Oh my God. Now 3 more to go. Let's go. 3 more to go. Let's go.
Squidward's Suicide.
No.
There was an episode of SpongeBob called
No. I'm skipping that. Nope. Skipping that. I'm skipping that. 2. Let's go. I swear to God, I'm gonna skip that one.
Candle Cove.
Creepy as hell. No.
On a forum site called Net Nostalgia, a couple of nostalgic users looked back on a particular obscure kid show which seemed different than other kid shows. Around 1971 or 1972, a kid...
Alright guys, let's take a short break. Be right back. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're enjoying the stream so far, but I do want to say give the video a big like and a subscribe, would be fantastic. So, let's go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
Kid show, simply known as Candle Cove, was broadcasted in a local TV station at around 4 p.m. on Channel 58. The show was about a little girl named Janice, who imagined herself to be friends with pirates, which took place in Candle Cove on a ship called the Laughingstock, with a pirate named Pirate Percy that got too scared very easily. What was weird about...
Alright guys, we're going to skip that one right now. We're going to go to the dangerous computer viruses.
This video contains content not suitable for viewers who suffer from cyberphobia. Viewer discretion advised. This video contains content not suitable from cyberphobia.
There we go, it's better.
Created by some of the smartest people out there just to prove their mettle or for the sake of playing pranks, viruses have embedded themselves deep into the roots of computing.
Malicious software, worms, Trojans, and computer viruses are on the rise as hackers, spammers, and identity thieves seek new ways to steal information that can be used to empty bank accounts or spread electronic pandemonium.
Well, as of right now, there are millions of viruses out there, and they get more and more threatening every day. Here's a look at the top 30 dangerous computer viruses.
Ooh.
Jerusalem. This is one of the first MS-DOS viruses in history that caused enormous destructions, affecting many countries, universities, and companies worldwide. In 1988, the computer virus managed to infect a number of institutions in Europe, America, and the Middle East. The name was given to the virus after one of the first places that got acquainted with it, the Jerusalem University. The Jerusalem virus managed to infect thousands of computers and still remain unnoticed. Back then, antivirus programs were not as advanced as they are today, and a lot of users had little knowledge of the existence of computer viruses.
Solar Sunrise. Using a computer virus, hackers in 1998 penetrated and took control of over 500 computer systems that belonged to the Army, government, and private sector.
Alright, let's get that one.
C. Been the most...
Alright.
Brain. Brain may not have been the most sophisticated virus, but in 1986 it was the first to really target PCs via Microsoft's DOS operating system. The virus ate up a huge chunk of memory and caused computers to display a message warning that they had been infected. It even told them who they should call to get disinfected. The original developers claimed they weren't trying to cause trouble. They created the virus as a means of copy protection for their medical software. But then someone else came along and copied that bit of code, and the virus spread.
Explorer.zip. The Explorer.zip worm appeared in the summer of 1999, following in the footsteps of Melissa. The worm deleted Word, Excel, and PowerPoint files, and randomly altered other types of files. The most dangerous computer viruses traveled via emails that appeared to be from someone the recipient knew. The message included a file that, if activated, showed a fake error message to the user. Unlike Melissa, this virus did not use Outlook to gather email addresses. Instead, it watched the inbox of the infected computer and then sent automatic replies to senders using the same email subject as the original message.
Autorun. This virus primarily targeted USBs and flash drives and established them as a major source of movement and propagation. It affected networks and all computers present on them. Once affected, the folder options would be disabled, the task manager would be, unavailable, and the virus itself would become the system's administrator. The virus would replicate itself on all the folders, therefore eating up all useful space on the hard disk, and making it extremely and evidently slow. The loss, you may ask, was in terms of useful data on millions of computers across the world.
Fizzer. While Fizzer wasn't as fast-moving as Code Red, this virus was much more insidious. Fizzer was the first instance of a worm created for financial gain. Computers infected with Fizzer started sending out pharmacy spam. In other words, Fizzer didn't just take over your address book to spread for the sake of spreading. It used your address book to send out porn and pills spam.
What?
Fizzer was followed by better-known spam-inducing worms, like So Big, which became threatening enough that Microsoft even offered a $250,000 bounty for information leading to the arrest of its creator.
Okay. 24.
Sercam. Sercam is a nasty little virus that appeared in July 2001 on PCs running Windows 95, 98, and Millennium. The worm appeared in emails with an attachment in Spanish or English saying greetings such as, "Hi, how are you?" and "Como estas?" If you launched the attachment, Sercam would install itself onto your infected computer. It would grab random documents and send them out on email addresses captured from your address book. It occasionally deleted files on the infected computer's hard drive and essentially changed them to nothing but gibberish and random HTML code.
So Big.
So Big.
So Big was a computer worm in the sense that it replicated by itself, but also a Trojan horse, in that it masqueraded as something other than malware. The So Big worm would appear as an electronic mail that would contain the text, "See the attached file for details," or "Please see the attached file for details," something along those lines. The So Big worm deactivated itself on September 10, 2003. On November 5th of the same year, Microsoft announced that they will pay $250,000 for information leading to the arrest of the creator of the So Big worm.
Ooh, okay. 22.
Magister.
Magister?
Magister is one of the most complex viruses and one of the most dangerous out there to hit the internet. Its victims, users of Outlook Express, were hooked by an infected email attachment. This virus, discovered in mid-March of 2001, sent garbled messages to everyone in the infected user's email address book. Attached were files pulled at random from the infected PC's hard drive, plus an executable file with the Magister code. This virus was not as widespread as many others, but it still was very destructive. Magister would overwrite hard drives and erase CMOSes and the flashable BIOS, preventing systems from booting. It also contained anti-debugging features, making it very hard to detect and destroy.
Is that Windows 95?
Storm. Storm tricks users into downloading it through email messages that seem to be about current news events. Users called it this because one of the messages had the subject, 230 dead as storm batters Europe. Storm operates as a Trojan horse program, carrying a variety of different programs that can do different nasty things to a user's computer, such as making it vulnerable to remote control. It turned out to be a mother virus, instigating numerous hidden programs in the background which made the PC vulnerable and enticing to hackers.
Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy is a computer security nightmare. This virus allows the attacker to secretly control the infected user's computer. Malware like Poison Ivy is known as a remote access Trojan because it provides full control to the perpetrator through a back door. Once the virus is installed, the perpetrator can activate controls on the targeted computer's system to record or manipulate its contents, or even use a computer speaker and webcam to record audio and video. Once thought as a tool for simple amateur hackers, Poison Ivy has been used in sophisticated attacks against dozens of Western firms, including those involved with the defense and chemical industries.
Metropolitan Police Virus. This virus blocks targeted computer systems and tries to get money from their users. It's a scam that uses the name of Metropolitan Police and blames users for breaking the law by watching and distributing pornographic content files. It changes their Windows registry and adds its malicious files to run its startup. Thus, whenever they try to log into their Windows operating system, or even in safe mode, they'll get a virus page instead of the desktop icon saying that your personal computer has been blocked. It also shows some screenshots from the webcam on the virus page and makes users into thinking their actions can be recorded and transferred to the police database. It can also display an infected computer's IP address, hostname, and even turn the webcam on automatically without their permission.
Oh my.
This tricky virus is programmed with a single goal: swindle the person who trusts this fake alert. It asks users to pay a fine of £100 within 48 hours of Ucash or PaySafeCard payment system. However, users should know these systems are based on payments using prepaid cards, and police would never use such methods to collect fines. NIMDA. NIMDA, spelt backwards, is admin. It was a worm that had the record of being the fastest ever virus to spread. It targeted internet servers and websites, creating a mass crater through which thousands of computers were affected at the same time. Once infected, the systems became exposed to open attacks by the outsiders. This virus debuted itself in 2001, immediately a week after the attack on the World Trade Centers. Some media began speculating a link between the virus and the attack on the World Trade Centers, which hasn't been proven yet. The virus spreads through the email and browsing of compromised websites.
SQL Slammer. It was a worm that basically slowed down the internet traffic and crashed multiple servers. The worm infected the servers over UDP and fit themselves into a single packet, thereby slipping through all the ports in spite of the internet traffic and routers not functioning. This worm created major problems during that year and resulted in the worst-case scenario in the tech field. Among its list of victims, Bank of America's ATMs, a 911 emergency response system in Washington State, and perhaps most disturbingly, a nuclear plant in Ohio.
Oh.
Allurion. Allurion, also known as TDSS, is a Trojan and bootkit designed to steal data by intercepting a system's network traffic and searching it for usernames, passwords, and credit card data. Trojan and bootkit PCs usually get infected by manually downloading and installing Trojan software, and Allurion has been seen bundled with the rogue security software Security Essentials 2010. When the dropper is executed, it first hijacks the spools via.exe to write a file system boot sector at the end of the disk, and changing the master boot record to execute this bootstrap routine. It also manipulates the Windows registry to block access to Windows Task Manager and the desktop, blocking access to Windows Update and attempting to disable some antivirus products.
Stuxnet. Stuxnet was the very first computer virus designed specifically to cause damage in the real world, not the virtual world. Like we said, previous viruses before Stuxnet only caused physical problems indirectly by causing problems in the virtual world first. What's Stuxnet? It was designed to target software systems controlling industrial systems, which can then cause damage to all the machinery controlled by those systems. It was created to damage Iran's uranium enrichment facility in Natanz, and data from the International Atomic Energy Agency revealed that Stuxnet caused a large number of Iran's centrifuges to go nuts and self-destruct. The virus was discovered in 2010, but experts believe that it had infected computers in Iran since 2009. Many speculate that the US government and Israel worked together to create Stuxnet.
14.
CLES. CLES gave the antivirus programs a real problem by simply disabling them.
So, because it's really I'm going to go to
It's extremely rapid.
Yeah, I know.
Affected by this virus. All it took was an active internet connection by antivirus experts as a turning point for malware because of its extremely rapid spread.
Melissa. Melissa, named after a dancer in Florida, is probably one of the most dangerous viruses to have affected computer systems. Spreading through email attachments, the virus replicates itself once activated and dispatches the replicates to 50 of the contacts in the email address book of the user. Estimates have indicated that this word macroscript infected 15 to 20% of all business PCs. The virus spreaded so rapidly that Intel, Microsoft, and a number of other companies that use Outlook were forced to shut down their entire email system in order to contain the damage. The email messages contained the sentence, "Here is the document you asked for. Don't show anyone else." A little ominous, right? With the attached Word document, clicking open on the doc file, and thousands of unsuspecting users did so. This allowed the virus to infect the host and repeat the replication, also adding insult to injury. Once activated, this virus modified the user's documents with codes from animated TV shows such as The Simpsons. It led to the stop in the email system for a while, until this virus was stopped. Though the virus didn't cripple the internet networks, it definitely caused terror and shock for those in the technological era.
I love you. Back in 2000, millions of people made the mistake of opening an innocent-looking email attachment labeled simply, I love you. Once opened, the worm overwrote important files, as well as music, multimedia, and more, with a copy of itself. It also sent the worm to everyone on a user's contact list. This particular worm only affected computers running on the Microsoft Windows operating system. While any computer accessing the email could receive the I love you email, only Microsoft Windows systems could be infected. The virus is known to attack the system's hard drive first, and then the registry keys. And all the while, it continues to copy itself and entrench itself deep within the files and folders of the computer. I love you caused a wide scale of problems for computer users, and only took hours for it to become a global pandemic. The virus is thought to have originated somewhere in the Philippines, and did around $8 to $10 billion in damage.
Okay. Number 1.
CryptoLocker. This particularly nasty virus, first discovered in September 2013, is a Trojan horse ransomware that targets computers running Microsoft Windows. A CryptoLocker attack can come from various sources. One such is disguised as a legitimate email attachment. When activated, the malware encrypts certain types of files stored on local and mounted network drives using RSA public key cryptography, with the private key stored only on the malware's control servers. The malware then displays a message offering to decrypt the data if a payment through either Bitcoin or a prepaid voucher is made by a stated deadline. It threatens to delete the private key if the deadline passes. If the deadline is not met, the malware will then offer to decrypt the data via an online service provided by the malware's operators for a significantly higher price in Bitcoin.
Well, there we go then. That was actually kind of fun today. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We'll be back. We're actually going to end off here. Thank you very much for joining us, and yeah. Thank you very much. I might get some food. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Good night. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Thank you. Before we end off today's stream, I just want to say, everybody, thank you very much for actually subscribing, press that bell icon, and also liking the video. It is greatly appreciated. So let me show you guys something. So before we end off here, we're gonna go over to a new tab here. We're pasting a little bit of a link, and it'll take you to my video here, of my video I'm doing right now. Go down, press that like button right here, press the subscribe button, and then like it. That'll be perfect. Be perfect, everybody. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you all a little bit later. Good night, everybody.